because it started.
And we're live.
Started.
Wow.
All right.
We're live.
So this is going to be our YouTube video as well as live on Facebook. Amen. We have been going through we've gone through all of the timeline, the dual timeline, how they intersect with one another, and how God put DNA in the end time prophecies.
That's right. Amen.
His DNA. Amen.
Sorry,
We're going to kind of keep that, Chris, so I can do that. I had that set up exactly how I wanted, so I appreciate your help. But I want to keep it set up where I got on that screen, on that board.
Sorry.
So, anyway, so we are in Revelation, and that is the last book of the Bible. Actually, you know, it used to be called Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we get the word apocalypse, end time, apocalypse. We're going to learn a couple other neat new words tonight, too. I want to find out what the word stigma means and where it came from. Ever hear of stigma? Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that a little bit, too. But we had really gone through a lot of, over chapter 12 quite a bit. And chapter 12 is kind of the start of the second timeline, how it goes from a spiritual plane to the natural, and it intersects with the previous timeline. And we've already gone through how the Bible uses time and time again the telling of the same story from different perspectives, and that is the basis for what we're teaching on end time prophecies. We've gone through the horsemen, we've gone through the seven seals, we've gone through all of that. Tonight we're going to talk about the mark of the beast a little bit. We're going to talk about the rapture a little bit. Next week, if all goes well, or next lesson, we are going to compare the seven trumpets with the seven vials. And I think you'll find that very interesting. But let's go to chapter 13 of Revelation. Okay. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns." We've talked about the 7 heads and the 10 horns before, but we'll go through it again. The 7 heads, I believe, are the 7 hills of Rome. The 10 horns are the 10 pillars of the Islamic faith. This is my opinion. The scripture doesn't say this, but based on my studies and how things, the Bible does talk about Rome and the 7 hills. It does specifically mention that. But we're going to see a uniting of the evil forces in this world. And this is taking place right here in chapter 13. I believe that the beast with 7 heads and the 10 horns is actually a type of the uniting of communism and Islam. Mm. And we see what's going on in America today, North America, the absolute onslaught of people wanting socialism. Right now in Hong Kong, in China, Hong Kong did not used to be a part of China. It had been, and England had control over it for many years. Right. And when England had control of Hong Kong, it had all of its Chinese culture, but it was free.
Right.
And England surrendered Hong Kong back to the government of Communist China. And right now, the people of Hong Kong are wanting their freedom back. And the Chinese government is about ready to come in with absolute force to destroy that. In Hong Kong, in China right now, protesters are marching in the streets waving American flags as a symbol of freedom, while in the United States, young people are marching in the streets demanding socialism and communism. That doesn't seem right. It just boggles the mind. And what the reason for that is our educational system has failed to teach children about the dangers and the evils of socialism and communism. Socialism and communism has killed, just in the 20th century alone, millions upon millions of people have died at the hands of their own government.
Right.
And the first way that they're able to do that is the first freedom that they take from you is the freedom to protect yourself. They take the guns away. Oh, but there's too many guns. No, there's not enough guns. This free people needs to be, now I'm getting on a government thing again, but this is the truth. A free people needs to be armed at least as well as the government. Because the free people aren't free if the government can take away their freedoms.
Right.
And so, now that I've gotten on that one. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear. His mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority. We've talked about the animals that are mentioned in these visions between Daniel and the Apostle John, and even in the prophet Ezekiel we read, and he describes these visions with descriptions of animals. And different nations have always had these symbols of animals. We know that the lion represents England, and the bear represents Russia. I've heard, and I don't know this for a fact, but many people say that the leopard is Germany. The dragon is the devil. The dragon is always the devil. So here we have what's going on in Europe right now. Europe is overrun with Islam.
Yeah.
And if Islam is a religion of peace, how come there's never been any peace in the Middle East? So what we have is the socialist communist system that has been in Russia and in Europe, uniting with this force of Islam. And you know it's an evil force because the first thing they want to do is take away freedom and kill Jews. Those two things are all you really need to know about it. That really is all you need to know. And the devil gives him his power, his seat, and his authority. I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. It seemed like just a few years ago, communism was dead. Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And the wall came down. And Germany became united and free. It don't seem so good right now there. But it looked like communism was dead. It looked like liberty and freedom was going to surround the world. That's the one thing the United States has exported the best. But when they exported it, they forgot to take care of what's going on at home. And so now, let me just go back on this again. 2-3 generations ago, the preachers in the pulpit, recognizing the corruption in government, told the saints in the pews that government is corrupt and a Christian has no business being in the government. Well, guess what that did? That left the government wide open for only those who are corrupt.
Right.
If godly people had stayed involved in the running of our nations, perhaps our nations would still be godly.
Right.
Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. When the righteous reign, the people rejoice. Therefore, but communism and socialism has made a resurgence. China is starting to exert its power. What's his name? Vladimir Putin. He was a former KGB official. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Do you think he ever stopped being a communist? No. He'll send the troops in after his own people every bit as much as Nikita Khrushchev did, or any of these other ones. Vladimir Lenin. So here we go. The deadly wound was healed. Maybe this is the deadly wound, maybe this isn't. The head that was wounded. But they worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a great mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Here we go with that 42 months. 1,260 days. Time times and half a time. Now, I was reading something today, and some people really get upset if you think that there's a possibility that those three references mean anything different than all the same thing. Yes, they could all mean the same thing, but I don't believe they do. There has been some people who have opined that the 1,260 days refers to 1,260 years that the Roman Church has had dominion over the world. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know that. We do read that the two witnesses back in chapter 11, I believe it was, chapter 10, the two witnesses that are in Jerusalem are there for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. 1,260 days, if that is literal days, that's 3.5 years according to the Jewish calendar, which has 30 days in a month, because the Jews use a lunar calendar. Time times and half a time, yeah, that could mean the same thing. Time, 1 year, times 2 years, and half a time, a year and a half of a year. Or it could mean 350 years, or 3.5 centuries, that liberty has had its reign in North America. And now that liberty is being taken. They worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. They worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who was able to make war with him? There was given unto him a great mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. Power was given unto him to continue 42 months. He opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven." So this beast, this dragon that gives power to this beast, is going to speak against everything that is of God. Mm-hmm. God's people, God's temple, God's throne. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given over him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Now, let's go back to this whole 7-year tribulation period theory. We've pretty well dispelled that already. But these people that believe that Revelations 4:1, where John heard the voice saying, "Come up hither, and I will show you the things which are to come," and people think that that is the rapture, and they teach that that is the rapture. But I read right here that this beast and this dragon has the power to make war with the saints. If the saints have already been raptured out, how in the world do you think the devil gets to invade heaven? I don't think so. The saints are still here, and this creature, this dragon, has the power to make war with the saints because we are here. Verse 8. All them that dwell on the earth shall worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. What does that mean? That means that Jesus was going to die at Calvary in God's plan from the very moment he said, "Let there be light." From the very foundation of the world, God already had this plan. It didn't surprise God when Eve ate the fruit. He already had the plan in place. As a matter of fact, it was part of the plan because God didn't want people to worship him and to serve him because they had no other choice. He wanted people that, even though we're fighting all of the temptations of the flesh, all of the weariness of this life, all of the burdens and the temptations of evil, and we still choose to worship him, that's what pleases God. Okay? If a man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, verse 11, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. Who's the lamb? Jesus is the lamb. This has 2 horns like a lamb. But he spoke like a dragon. The Bible tells us that Satan himself will disguise himself as an angel of light. Remember the first seal that was opened in chapter 6? We opened the first seal, and there was a white horse, and he that sat on that white horse had a bow. He didn't have any arrows. That wasn't the Messiah. That was the devil disguising himself as the Messiah. And here we have, he looks like a lamb. He looks like a man of peace. He looks like a man who's going to bring unity to the whole world. He has the horns of a lamb, but he speaks like a dragon. Just because somebody can talk pretty don't mean they're good. And just because somebody can't talk pretty don't mean they're bad. 2 horns like a lamb, he spoke as a dragon. He exercises all of the power of the first beast before him. Why? Because he is a representation of the devil, of the dragon. He has all the power of the first beast before him, and he causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So this united power that looks like it was about ready to die away is coming back with a vengeance, and he's going to have a spokesperson who's going to cause everybody to want to worship that image. Right now we have people marching in the streets, causing all sorts of violence, trying to destroy the very freedoms that allow them to do that. I believe that is the force, the influence of the devil, of the dragon. This beast that has the horns like a lamb and speaks like the dragon has the ability to do great wonders, so that he can make fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. What would it take to make you believe that somebody has the power of God?
A miracle?
A miracle. Maybe someone who can cause a lame person to get up and walk, or a blind person to see. Do you know that some of these sicknesses and diseases, not all of them, but some of them are actually demonic forces that are attacking people? And if the demonic force is causing a person to lose his eyesight, I know of a person who, since this person was late teens, early 20s, has been deaf-mute. Speaks with sign language. But yet the doctors can find absolutely nothing to cause this person's deafness. There's a very good possibility that it is a demonic spirit that has attacked this person to cause that person to lose their hearing. And if a demonic force is causing a person, many of these mental illnesses aren't illnesses at all, but demonic forces. Why do you think it is that when you go into a town that has a large mental hospital, Sault Ste. Marie used to have a mental hospital. When they closed the mental hospital, they put the army base there, Camp Lucas. And this town has really had a real issue with spirituality and demonic forces. As a matter of fact, this town every year has a, what do they call it? Paranormal conference, where everybody comes and celebrates all the demons and devils and everything like that. And of course, we're approaching Halloween, that is the most blatant of demonic holidays. Don't come trick-or-treating to my door. I'll just teach you about Jesus. On second sight, go ahead, come on over. I'll teach you about Jesus. Newberry used to have a large mental hospital. Now it's a prison. But I was in there. We had a field trip when I was in Rudyard School. We had a field trip over there, and it was a mental hospital. You could feel the demonic forces in it. You could feel it. So if the devil can do a great miracle and cause someone who has been insane for years to all of a sudden be in their right mind, we might think that's God doing it. Try to get them to worship Jesus. Then you'll have a pretty good idea, because if they can worship Jesus Christ, then it's probably not a devil. But, so, calling fire down from heaven, That'd be a pretty awesome miracle, wouldn't it? See all these magicians that like to have flames coming out of their hand and pull a dove out of their sleeve or some stupid thing like that. There's been another resurgence in magic and magicians of recent, and some of the things that they do and the powers, and many of our entertainers have literally sold their soul to the devil for fame and popularity. I'll just throw a name out there. Katy Perry. She was raised in a Christian home.
Michael Jackson.
I mean, these people have united themselves with absolute demonic forces. And the symbolism in their videos and stuff, it's all there. But anyway, so here we have this beast and another beast that has power of the first beast. And he does great wonders, so he makes fire come down from heaven. He deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of the miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. Now, here's this representation, or this spokesperson for this first beast, this beast of the dragon, and he looks like a great guy. He looks like a lamb. He looks harmless as can be. He looks like a man of peace, but yet what's coming out of him is the words of a dragon. And he says, well, let's make this great image. If you remember in the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about a great image with the head of gold and all of that stuff. And each different metal in this image that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of represented a kingdom that was to come. And the head of gold was the Babylonian Empire. And Nebuchadnezzar thought he was going to defy God by making an image that was all gold. In other words, he's saying, God, you're not going to end my dominion. I'm going to be in charge forever because I'm going to make the whole image out of gold. And everybody in my kingdom is going to fall down and worship that image. We're going to see history repeat itself. We're going to make an image to this beast that had the deadly wound that was healed, and he did live. And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast. How many have ever heard of artificial intelligence? How about robotics? All these kind of things. And now there is a principle that is universal throughout our in all of creation, and that's nothing ever happens without it first being spoken into existence. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Well, the devil can't cause anything to happen without speaking it first either. And so what the devil does is he puts thoughts in people's mind, and they come up with these wild, fantastic movies that speak into existence things that the devil will use. And I'm not saying artificial intelligence is evil. What I'm saying is it can be used for evil. Just like a computer is not inherently evil, but it can be used for evil, or a television, or a gun, or anything else. These are not inherently evil things, but they all can be used for evil or for good. And so he said, let's make this image, and he's going to make this image speak. He's going to make this image move and do things. And this image, they have algorithms that on computers, they can use these optical things, and they can read your emotions. They have them set up in airports and some places where they can actually read the emotions of the people walking through the concourses of the airport to determine who is a threat for violence on an airplane. They already have that. When we were in Fort Wayne for the memorial service, we rode to church Sunday in Karen's car. She's got a little Ford Escape. And she said, well, it doesn't drive itself, but it will park itself. You can get out of it. You can literally get out of your car and push a button, and the car will park itself in the parking place. And that's just a little Ford Escape. Now, Teslas, they literally drive themselves, and they've got all these things. My son tells me that the technology is not there where the cars can be fully autonomous, but we are so close to the things where If you are determined to be an enemy of the state, you can get in your car and thinking you're going to go to church, and that car is going to lock you in it and drive you to some place where you can't get away from. That could literally happen today. Oh man, you got some crazy, fantastical ideas. Well, a lot of people have. That's why they come up with movies. And then you know what? When Jules Verne wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or what was the one around the world in 80 days, all that kind of stuff, everybody thought that was all fantastical as well, but it's all taken place, every bit of it. So, I do believe that these things are about ready to happen. Oh, and listen to this. Verse 16, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Don't remember now, the church is still here. Because this dragon is making war with the saints. And yet here this representation or representative of the dragon who has caused this image to be made and given life to this image. He causeth everyone, small, great, rich, poor, bond, free, it doesn't matter. You're going to receive a mark in your right hand or in your forehead. Not me. How many of you have a social security card or a social insurance card? How many of you have an ATM card? How do you activate all those things? You use numbers, don't you? You know, the government really doesn't care what your name is because they've got all your numbers. And it doesn't matter what government because they're all the same. So, anybody here had a can of Monster Energy drink recently? Know what it is? I saw this video. What's the symbol on the energy drink? Remember that little, looks like a claw thing, right?
Oh, it looks kind of like snakes.
That's the Hebrew symbol for 6.
And you see them, so that means 666, the number of the beast.
Is it? Guess what? You know, now the Hebrew alphabet, the Hebrew language does not have numbers. They have letters that have numerical value. And the Aleph, is that what it's called? Is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And guess what letter it would represent in English? Have you ever looked at the barcode on everything you buy from the store? Digital language and the barcode, 2 narrow lines together represent
666.
But I'm having fun with you right now. Because that's not what it says. No man may buy or sell save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. That's not what it says. 666. This is how you plan ahead. 666. Now, we all see this and panic. But these symbols didn't even exist back then. As a matter of fact, we call them Arabic numbers, don't we? They didn't come from Arabs. They came from India. The Arabs took them from India, and they're the ones who disseminated, and those are what the whole world uses, but they actually began in India. not Arabic. So, it's really important because in, now I'm not going to try to do all that. We know what the 6 is. 60. That's 60 in Hebrew. Oh, and there's 600. It looks a whole lot different than 666, doesn't it? Oh, wait a minute now. Did you know that John didn't write in Hebrew? Maybe. Aramaic was actually the common spoken language by the Jews at that time. But if he was writing in Greek, the Koine Greek, then 6 would be 60 would be, and 600 would be 666. Now, that is pronounced chi, and that symbol there is pronounced C, or the phonetic spelling that they would use would be XIRC. And that symbol is actually a combination of sigma and tau, S and T in our language. And it's the 6th letter of the Greek alphabet, and they call it stigma. Because 6 is an incomplete number. God's number is 7. Man's number is 6. We are incomplete. We were created on the 6th day. And so by being incomplete, we have a stigma. And now you know where that word came from. You didn't know you were in a language class as well. Now, so, for all that good stuff, let's go back and read that again. No man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. Now, or the name, or the number of his name. In other words, that mark could be just about anything.